Hello Stratters! Welcome to the Pauper Gauntlet brought to you by mtgotickets.com. I'm playing Goblin Storm combo in round 5 of the Pauper Gauntlet. I started this channel in January 2013 and I've never been sick since then. But today I have a little feeling of a cold, so it's not anything serious, but I might sound a bit muffled, so please please forgive me for that. Miguelico 12. So this looks like a hand, and I'm going to keep it especially against the mulligan. And the bushwalker is just going to be 1/1s drawing cards. But almost anything I draw here will be good. Elves. What's that matchup like? I'm checking for it in the sideboard plan. And it's not there, but there are like goblins and stuff, so maybe I can think of what to do. Bushwalker into bushwalker, playing keep watch for 2 to get something started. Sounds pretty weak, so now I don't want to draw any more lands. Uh-oh, the elves are getting started. Do you think he will block with any of these elves? If he does, it's a disaster. I don't think he can block with any of those 2 elves. So I might now... Oh, there is Krenko's command. That changes everything. So then we could kind of go off next turn. 3 mana, so we can play Ritual, Bushwalker. I think it's command here. And attack. Can I get to 6 mana? I can, can't I? If I draw another land, then I can play Bushwalker and Distant Melody next turn. That would be very sweet. Maybe he actually has a super big weakness here, that he can't interact with the goblins. Of course, fog effects from the sideboard. Oh, he quits on me! No, this was super interesting. Damn it. Okay, then I have to pad the video. So you don't know it's a quitter match by looking at it. So, we can talk about Goblin Storm combo. Lost to Mono Black Control, 1-2. Won against Absan Life Gain, 2-1. Made it to round 3, where it played Goblins, won 2-1. Then it played Grixis Counterburn, won 2-1. And now a quitter, 2-0. Woohoo! Okay, which one was the last of the quitter videos? Maybe it was Infect. So I'll see if any of you made any requests there. think it was the Infect versus Azorius Control. Oh my god, it has 300 views and no dislikes. Well, we could talk about the Assyrian Empire. That's a request I have here, actually. So, the Assyrian Empire was around from 911 BC to 612 BC, and this is what I do my Fan of History stuff about. This is the main series on the Fan of History YouTube channel. My second biggest YouTube channel after Magic Gathering Strat 1, it's still, this is the Fan of History channel. Woohoo! Okay, so I'm doing a little, some other stuff on it. I'm doing the Stockholm Bloodbath. It was in 1520, when it was the biggest execution of criminals in the medieval period, of which 2 were bishops, and that was highly illegal. Only the Pope could judge bishops. And it happened in Stockholm in 1520. There were 83 dead, and it has 150 years building up to it, and an aftermath of 2 years. Sort of ends the medieval period in Sweden and Denmark, because the villains are Danes. Then I do this Timeline of World History series, where we go through everything in world history from the year 200,000 BC. And that I do, it's written by Shane Soresby, and I just voice it with my sexy voice. Then we have the podcast, and these videos are the main narrative. So let's talk about the Assyrian Empire. And I might even go longer than I've gone in Fan of History. The latest episode I produced was 720 BC. So Assyria was around for a very long time before. It actually had 2 empires before this. This is the Neo-Assyrian Empire. It's the one people talk about. In the 911 BC, the Assyrians come out of the Dark Age and the Bronze Age collapse and start to conquer area. Their goal is to reclaim their Middle Assyrian Empire. You can actually see that on the map here. But yeah, I should have a better map to do if I was prepared to do this. So, for a couple of years, Assyria beats people up. They invent cavalry. Very interesting cavalry. And here's a video where I talk about the early Neo-Assyrian army after the invention of cavalry. And then comes the third king, Ashurnasirpal II, the Lord of Massacres. And he has a whole area in British Museum in London where they have the stuff that this guy put up on walls. He made great stone things which talked about his policies. And his policy was massacre everyone who doesn't agree with him. So, and there are these horrible stories about this actually happening in the area where the Islamic State is today, but the Islamic State has nothing on Ashurnasirpal II. He is way worse. At some point he is building a tower of human skulls and putting human skins on the city walls of a city, so to remind them that it's not a good idea to mess with him. He makes the empire a lot larger. He has the greatest party of all time. It's this video where he invites everyone to his new capital and then captures most of the guests to get people to live in his capital. But it's a great party. So he scares everybody to death. Here's a music video tribute to Ashurnasirpal, the very, very nasty Assyrian king. The worst of them, actually, it seems. He has a son, this guy, Shalmaneser III, and he managed to stay around for a great number of years, making the empire even bigger. And he fights the Battle of Karkar in 853 BC. This is the greatest battle the world has ever seen up to that date, when 12 nations unite to fight the Assyrians. And they kind of succeed. It's a draw. But Shalmaneser just keeps coming. And here we have some problems in the 820s. Shalmaneser III goes... he suffers from dementia. And there's a civil war to determine who will rule Assyria. And that is actually what we talked about on the podcast right now. The podcast is a bit behind the YouTube videos. So we're talking about the aftermath of this civil war, some other kings, Shamshadad V, Adad-nirari III. And then the empire falls into a period of decline. Here, Assyria is having problems, the empire gets smaller and smaller. Why is this clip private? It should be part 2. I have to look that up. So everything looks like the empire will fall. There's a really weak king, but it's 745 BC. This guy shows up, the Assyrian Tiglath-Pileser III, one of the greatest generals of all time. And this video talks about, he invents a lot of things that you think come from the Romans or the Persians. But the idea of a standing army boots, there's so many things that just come from this one genius general who never lost a battle, and after him the real empire starts. So when you talk about the Assyrian Empire, it's really about the empire between 745 BC and 611 BC. Oh wow, I need to update this playlist. So what happens then? After Tiglath-Pileser III, he rebelled against the weak king, and he set the precedent. So after he dies, his son suffers a rebellion, and Sargon, the true king, Sargon II, his name means the true king, but he's not true at all. He takes over, but he has a lot of interesting problems, and he managed to become the only Assyrian king to ever write about the battle. But you can't believe what he writes, because the Assyrians kept it a secret how they fought in battles. But Sargon, if you believe Sargon, he arrived at the enemy was on a hill, and Sargon said, he looked back on his soldiers and saw that they were tired, so he figured, screw them, and then he attacked by himself with his bodyguard and killed the entire other army. He also managed to become the only Assyrian king to die in combat against a new foe, the Cimmerians, who invaded the whole of the Middle East in 712 BC. We can look at this list. This is stuff I haven't made videos about yet, or podcasts. You are getting stuff in advance. Sargon is replaced by his son Sennacherib the Builder, from the destruction of Sennacherib, the famous poem by Lord Byron, because he tries to conquer Jerusalem. Actually, Shalmaneser V destroyed Israel, but Judah is still around, and Sennacherib tries to conquer Jerusalem and is destroyed by a host of angels, or the angel of death. But not if you ask Sennacherib, because he says, I went back home. He goes back home, he gets murdered by his sons for sins he has committed, that he actually did commit. But he has decided that his younger son, Esarhaddon, should be the crown prince. Esarhaddon does a similar thing. Esarhaddon actually conquers Egypt, which is pretty cool. But now I only have 1 minute left. So Esarhaddon decides that another young son should take over as the king. So he bypasses the elder sons and makes Ashurbanipal the king of Assyrian. Ashurbanipal is unique. I name him the Scholar King because, as he was not supposed to be the king, he has practiced reading and writing, and he's the first Assyrian king that can read and write. And he has a glorious reign, but he deals too harshly with his enemies. He is number 2 on the massacre scale after Ashurnasirpal II. And he destroys the ancient kingdom of Elam in southern Iran. But that was a bad move, because the ancient kingdom of Elam was keeping the horse peoples of northern Iran in check. And now they go rampant. They are the Medes and the Persians. And after Ashurbanipal dies, everything goes really badly. And in 612 BC, the Babylonians, who have been victims of Assyrians' aggression for 300 years, the Medes, the Persians, the Urartians, everybody gathers to crush the Assyrian Empire. And in an epic battle, the Assyrian capital of Nineveh falls in 612 BC, marking the end of the Assyrian Empire. And I want to cover this. I've gotten to Sargon II in the YouTube show, and on the podcast you can find on iTunes, Fan of History, we are still talking about Adad-nirari III. Actually, I just recorded an episode today talking about Adad-nirari III. So if you want to know more about the Assyrian Empire, check out the Fan of History YouTube channel. And the podcast. Actually, if I had started Fan of History today, I would have made it a podcast and not a YouTube channel. Because, these YouTube videos take a lot of time to produce, and the history buff seems to be hanging around on iTunes and not on YouTube. So thank you for listening, and tell me what I should talk about next time I have to pad a video. I'll happily talk about one of my other YouTube channels or podcast projects. I now do 5 podcasts, and I think I run 11 YouTube channels. Thank you for watching.